Everyone says DESS is missing. Some say she's dead, some say she's the Knight. But what if the truth is stranger and darker than all of those theories combined? Today we're uncovering what really happened to DESS and why it could put the entire story of Deltarune in a new light. There is a way to have DESS be the Roaring Knight with this theory, but it's a bit more abstract. After all, if DESS is the Knight and Carl is working with the Knight, then why is DESS still considered missing? And then what even becomes the motive to start the roaring? I mean, the only motive that we can infer is to find DESS. So what's going on? In this video, we will first of all debunk a few theories quickly, then next we find out what really happened to DESS, and then finally explain how it ties into the whole narrative. Since DESS being the Knight has already been covered in decent length in my Roaring Knight theory video and even other videos, so I don't really think there is much more to be said on that. The main point really is the conflict of having to find DESS, but also somehow being the Knight. Like teasing finding her so much in the Spamton sweepstakes, then making her the villain seems a little odd. Like it could work, but why bother teasing a message of finding her instead of intrigue like, where is she? It would convey the same message, but without the connotation like DESS is someone who needs to be found or saved, and more like a mystery. But I'm pretty sure Toby Fox could pull it off if he wanted to. Now for DESS being dead. I think even though missing people can very unfortunately wind up not being alive for the whole time they were missing, DESS being dead would yet again not really line up with the whole idea of finding her, and since we already assume the Knight's whole thing is about finding her, as I mentioned earlier on this channel, DESS being dead could be a shocking twist, but then it makes Deltarune a whole lot depressing if the Knight finds out all this was just for naught. There is a way for DESS Knight to work though, but I'll explain after I get into my theory in a bit. It does seem like another fate awaits our month named Doe. But what is that terrible fate? Well, it's not something they chose because of course, according to them, no one can choose who they are in this world. Yeah, I believe the second voice in the character creation sequence is DESS. Not only that, but also the second voice is also the person we find in the code. To be able to overwrite Gaster's control like that, you would need to be somewhat close to the code. How is that possible, you may ask? It's a bit speculative since we don't have all the clues, but bear with me, it all starts with Carol. We know Carol is a little strict sometimes, but she is a very hardworking mayor and wants to do the best for the hometown residents. So what is the greatest thing that endangers her residents? The roaring. We know the prophecy is already common knowledge around hometown as it is preached in the church and has several different iterations in the forms of books and games. So now here is what I think: if Carol knew about the prophecy, wouldn't she do something to stop it? It's likely that Carol had been researching more about the roaring and the prophecy to find a way to prevent it before it ever happened. To handle something this big, Carol can't act alone, so she turns to Asgore, the head of police. That's why Asgore already has a conspiracy board and isn't having a big reaction when inspecting the Black Shard. But what happens when DESS finds out about this? Someone who is already rebellious, curious, and is hiding secret codes in her guitar. I feel like due to DESS living in the same house and being more mature than, let's say, Noelle, DESS would have to know something is up, but due to the strained relationship with her mother Carol, the confrontation of her mother's actions either never happened or failed miserably. Now I think DESS's rebellious nature pushed her to investigate further. That would explain the secret code in her guitar. So for my theory, it eventually leads her to check out the bunker Carol built but never used. Unfortunately for DESS though, abandoned places always invite unwanted visitors, don't they? So far, Carol builds a shelter, DESS finds out, and her investigation leads her to the bunker. That's the moment everything changes. I think at this point in the game we can be pretty sure that the shelter is probably Gaster HQ as we hear the slowed down Winged Ninja sound smile.ogg playing. Before this, she became aware of the power the soul has to banish darkness by peeking through Carol's research, so why not also banish the darkness of the roaring, which I explained in my last video. So DESS assigns the soul to Kris instead somehow, because leaving the soul to do whatever they want seems like a bad idea for saving the world, and she knows that Kris is involved with Carol's plan in some sort of way because of her snooping. Then noticing that she isn't alone, DESS makes an escape before almost finishing her epical rough farming monologue. Unfortunately for DESS, she somehow falls deeper into the darkness into the code itself due to this being Gaster HQ and Gaster being basically the dungeon master of Deltarune. This is why the second voice speaks in complete darkness instead of in image depths. They don't have the same level of control as Ghasti Poo. Of course, Gaster would want to clean up this mess and start the experiment over, but they notice things develop with great interest. DESS family and those close to them plot on how to rescue DESS, and now one of them takes up the mantle of the Roaring Knight in order to save DESS. A bit different than G-Man himself had hoped, but it was very interesting watching it still fall into line with the prophecy. Okay, so how could this possibly work with DESS Knight theory? If monsters do have souls in this universe, there could be a chance that DESS just had their soul separated from their body in some sort of way, leading their body to be a husk that is trying to rescue themselves. Think of it this way, sprites are like pictures in a folder, but the code is like the text that tells the game where those pictures go. DESS isn't in the folder anymore. She's trapped in the text itself. So really, in summary, it's just Carol not trusting DESS, and in turn DESS finding herself trapped but still trying to make things right. I mean, despite DESS kickstarting everything in this theory, she still makes an effort to set things right, and so does everyone else like Carol, her Night Gang. After all, it's important to correct any mistakes and be honest about them. There is nothing to fear except...
Can anyone hear me?
What? No, I didn't hear anything just now. But it sounded like they were talking to you. So in short, Carol tries to stop the roaring, DESS uncovers the truth, and that leads her straight into the code, where she becomes trapped. That single event flips the prophecy on its head, creating the version of the story we see unfold in Deltarune, setting off the prophecy in a different way without the need of winged ninja intervention. I feel like out of all the candidates for the second voice for the Gonna Maker sequence, DESS is the best one as she has a motive to assign the soul to Kris specifically. She is someone who knows that Carol is working with to stop the roaring. It also explains why they were able to interrupt the character creation sequence like that. They are someone who is close to the code like DESS. I feel like DESS is the better guess for any of the candidates for the person in that sequence, especially better than the Chara theories back in Chapter 1. Well, as a heads up for my next video, I am planning to cover Deltarune ARG. I have found, so be sure to subscribe for that. And well, like this video if you enjoyed it. Oh wait, before I go, I have a Discord server, so in case you want to have a longer theory discussion, be sure to join. I also have a Ko-Fi in the description if you want to support me or just want a tip for a video. Thank you so much for listening so far, but for now I'll end this video here. I do plan to slow down my uploads a bit, if you can tell already from the 2-month gap. It's mostly because I would like to wait for the new content in Chapter 5 before I release new theories and a project I am working on, though I will do videos on Deltarune related things and maybe analysis on different areas of Deltarune in the future. Is that cool with you? Yeah. Alright then, take care and see you later.